Okay, so in our previous lessons, yesterday, we looked at factoring these trinomials when they don't have a greatest common factor. And they don't have four terms, so we can't use grouping. And we saw here that when we factored this one, t squared plus 8t plus 12, we ended up with t plus 6 and t plus 2. And because both of these were positive, both of our numbers in the middle were positive. But then in this problem here, we had a positive and a negative. And because we have a negative, we knew that we had to times two negatives together in order to get the 20. Because when we add or subtract, it's just going to carry the biggest term. But when it's multiplying and dividing, we know that we had to change it. So we could either have two negatives that we were timesing or two positives. But like we said yesterday, when we have two negatives, we would get a positive. But we couldn't use two positives here because we have this negative. So we had to have two negatives in order to make that. So when we combined our factors, we found that negative 5 and negative 4 were the ones that when we added together made negative 9. And then we went back and we checked it using our full, distributing it, and we came up with the same answer here as we did there. But sometimes, and often, in these positive and negative is going to be switched out. So here we have it, and we have x squared plus 5x minus 36. So you see here, it's our coefficient, our constant that is changing. So here we had a positive constant, and here we have a negative. So that will change our things a little bit. Because in order for it to be negative, we can't have two positives, and we can't have two negatives. Because if we times either one of those, we would end up with a positive. So we know that for this number, we're going to have a positive and a negative being combined. We're going to have different signs. Okay? So, if we look at our box here, we have a times c plus b. Okay? So, a, b, and c. So, we have 36, which is going to be a negative 36. This is very important you keep those signs right, okay? You miss the whole problem if you don't. So, and then we have a positive 5. So, if we look at this number, we're thinking, okay, we'll make 36. 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9. So we're looking at these numbers and we're saying, okay, one of these numbers we know has to be a negative. But it would probably be easier because this 5 is so much smaller than 36 to try first turning your smaller number into a negative. Because, like I said, it's such a far distance. So if I said 36 and negative 1, which is basically I'm just taking that away, that would give me 35. I have negative 2 and 18. That's going to give me 16. I have 12 and negative 3. That's going to give me a negative 9. And I have 9 and negative 4. That's going to give me, oh wait, these are positives. A positive. That's going to give me a positive 9, positive 16, and a positive 35. Okay, so if I'm doing it like I said, which one of these, I come up with my positive 5. So this would be the combination that I would have used. So when we do it, we put our numbers in here. So we're going to use our positive first. So x plus 9 and x minus 4. And again, you can check it just like we did here if you like. I'm not going to make you do that on, but just maybe a few of them. So the assignment won't take quite so long. Okay, now I'm going to do one more. And this time, we're going to work with two negatives. So if we have x squared minus 5x minus 24. Okay, now what is going to work here? I have a negative and I have a negative here. So I know I can't have two positives or two negatives. That won't work. That would make this a positive. So I'm going to have a combination of a positive and a negative. Okay, so if we make our thing here, 1 times 24, negative 24 is negative 24. And when I add those together, I'm going to get a negative 5 this time. Okay, so let's look at our factors for 24. Okay, we have 1 and 24. We have 2 and 12. We have 3 and 8. We have 4 and 6. Okay, so now this time my number here is negative. So chances are, let's try putting this part as a negative because both of these numbers are negatives. So we've got negative, 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 and negative. And let's try that. If it don't work, then you can change it and make the smaller number it. So negative 24 and 1 is going to give you 23. Negative 12 and 2, that's going to be negative, is going to give me a negative 10. Negative 8 and 3 is going to give me negative 5. Negative 6 and 4 is going to give me negative 2. And so this time I can see that this would be my combination that gave me negative 5. So I have x minus 8 and x plus 3. Now it could go x plus 3 or x minus 8. Either way would be the correct answer. Okay, so now we have one more problem. And this one is probably the easiest of them all. So, and that is whenever we had a square and a number here. And this number here is actually a perfect square. Okay, so what that means is I can say negative 9 times a positive 9. 9 times 9 is going to give me 81, right? And again, it's negative, so it has to be a negative and a positive. Can't be the same thing. But basically all you're going to do, and what happens here is we say x squared plus 0x, because we don't have x, minus 81. So whatever I'm using to turn this into a 0 has to be the same number. Because if I had said negative 9 and a positive 8, I would have had one left over. So it's going to be the same number. So all you're really going to do here is you're going to say, okay, what is the square root of 81? What number can I square and get 81? Can I times it by itself? 9. So you've got x plus 9 and x minus 9. And that's the answer. Okay, it would work with any number that is a perfect square. So if this were, and it has to be negative. So if this were a negative 64, well, what's the square root of 64? The square root's 8. So I'm going to have x plus 8 and x minus 8. And if I combined 8 and 8, that would have given me 0 in the middle. So I don't have an x here. So that's all you do. So